Hi everyone, welcome to Tech Day Live. Today I'm installing this set of brake lines on this bike right here. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you're seeing this live, say hello in the comments. If not, you can always say hello in the comments down below. But the reason I'm making this video is I've made a lot of videos on the brake lines, on the importance of changing out your brake lines, and I wanted to do it live because in case some of you guys have questions on how to do specific things. I'm going to show you some of the tips and the techniques that I've learned over the years of doing these. I have no idea how many of these I've done. A lot. And I've always chosen the Spiegler brake lines because of their incredible quality, and they're made in the US. I'm sure that other brake line manufacturers are good as well, and you can use these techniques, on other manufacturers, whether it's Galfer or I don't even know, maybe BMW makes some that if you want to spend all that extra money. But I'm going to show you what I do to do this. Another reason I'm doing this is for my guys at Patreon. I threw out some questions, threw out the idea of doing a live stream on the brake lines and got a lot of positive response. So you Patreon people out there, I'm doing it for you. For the rest of you who are not supporting me, if you would like to, please just check the link down below and you'll see various ways in which you can support the work that I do here. All that said, let's get going on a brake job. So you're gonna see this bike in a very torn down condition. It's because I'm doing a lot of other service on this motorcycle. You don't need to tear it all the way down to nothing, but you do need to remove your panels. You need to remove your side panels and the gas tank, because you need to remove this intake tube right here in order to get to the brake lines that are behind it. You need to pull off the covers, or at least the right side cover, the top handlebar cover. You need to pull that one off. This one's getting some shocks and springs, so I haven't yet put the front spring on. So I've got a little cylinder jack holding up the front forks right now, as well as the scissor jack down here below that's holding up the engine and kind of supporting it in that direction. But I can work around that. I can get through all of that stuff. So let's get going on this right now, and yeah, I'll kind of talk you through it as we go here. I see some of you guys are popped up online. I'm glad to see you guys. Hello, all of you people. Love seeing you guys from around the world. It's 1 p.m. here. Of course, my phone's gonna ring. We're gonna leave that alone. Not having any phone calls, so if you guys are calling me right now, forget it. I'm putting this thing on mute. There we go. All right, let's get going on this thing. So I'm going to do a little bit of prep work here. I'm going to take this hose off of here by removing these two bolts. There's one here and here. They're little 5mm hex. Here and here. So what I do to make it life easier right here is I drill a hole right in line with that screw that's back there. And you'll need to take this off if you ever have to do your clutch. You'll need to take it off a bunch of times. So I use just a little step drill, kind of line it up there, blast a hole in it. And that gets covered up by the side panel. You'll never see that. All right, one more tool. Need a 7mm 7mm hex tool to get the top screw off of this right here. Little screw. I think a 9/32 works as well. So I'll pull that out. And if you've watched my other video, you know that I like to put this in such a way that I don't want to forget putting it back on there. So I'm just going to lay it up here with some of the other parts. Now I have this area here exposed so I can get to the brake lines that are right up underneath here. You guys will have to deal with the noise since there's no editing on a live video. And you'll have to deal with shaky camera sometimes too as I move it around various areas in the shop. Okay, once you get your plastics off of at least this right side, you want to make sure that you protect your windshield. Always protect your windshield and protect this little wing here, because if any brake fluid gets on it, it's going to instantly ruin it in that spot. All right, I see that somebody's asking me on the comments a place where do you buy the brake lines? I buy them directly from Spiegler. I don't get them from any kind of aftermarket reseller. I call up Spiegler, I tell them what I need, they send me brake lines. I'm a happy boy. Put the key in, lock it out there. Get those sexy decals. What are you talking about? Which decals? All right. So Vessel. This is a Vessel JIS, or Japanese Industrial Standard screwdriver. You can use a Phillips, but these work like magic. And these are just what the doctor ordered for up here. If you want to know where to get these, you can get these on my Amazon page. That link is right down below. If you go on my Amazon page, you'll see a bunch of products there. And this is one of them. I think it's down toward the bottom of the list. It was one of the first things I put on there. Just a great screwdriver. You don't ever strip out the heads on these things, no matter how stuck they are. They just seem like they always work. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to empty out this reservoir to get it prepared for for putting the new brake line on here. We're going to go with that one first. Keep a little tray. Alright, just going to vacuum this stuff out. You're disappointed that I'm not protecting my hands with gloves? Well, that's okay. Sometimes I disappoint. I also don't wear gloves sometimes. This is actually one of the jobs I don't wear gloves on purpose, because every time I've tried to wear gloves, the brake fluid gets on them and they get so slippery that I can't grab anything, and I wind up taking the gloves off and then just using them without. So, yeah. Probably wouldn't hurt to have eye protection on. If you feel like you need eye protection, then by all means. I'm just a guy. All I am. I'm just a guy that works in my shop. That's it. I'm the lone employee, so I guess I'll sue myself if I ever hurt myself. Anyway. So now with this off, I can move this back into position. I'm not worried about getting air down here because, boy, there's going to be plenty of it. Next thing I'll do right now is I'll take apart, since the camera's in this position, I'm going to take apart this in order to get this, because I need to be able to rotate everything out of the way. So you got a screw here. And there's two. Well, there's one in behind here, right underneath the starter. Right behind the starter. It's a little black one. You got to pull that one out. Just be careful you don't lose it. Once I say that, I usually do lose stuff. Except for today. And then there's one up underneath. It's a silver one. It's straight up underneath here. Just roll that one out. Oh, what the heck? That thing is not coming out of there. That's what you get when you get live, right? Got it. All right. Now with that off of here, you just grab this and pull it forward. There's always enough room to just get it off and kind of twist it out of the way. You're just trying to expose this little hex head right here. Of course, wrong size. Just going to loosen that up a little bit. Now this whole thing will rotate once you get some of these other things off. You gotta, so up on top of the handlebars, there's a couple of zip ties. You gotta cut those out of the way so things can kind of move and rotate. Alright. So now it'll rotate it without any trouble. Okay, now down below. Retired 810 pilot. Yeah, you can come over. Come on over here. You can run this camera. I think that would be good. Okay, all I got are these little LED lights, so I know they're going to flash in the video, but hopefully we're going to be able to see and show you guys what I'm doing. There we go. It should be pretty good. Okay, so up underneath here, this top one, you want to loosen this thing up first to drain the rest of the brake fluid out from above. So I take some rags and just lay them in here to try to catch it. Okay, only one spot on there to loosen up, so start getting it loose. We'll start running out. All right, back up top. In just a second, Now I'm going to take my lines out and just kind of spread them around where I'm going to need them. What I usually do is just tear the cover off and then use the pan as a tray. Lines out. Those little stickers out. So I like to just put all these roughly where I'm going to need them. You can see they usually mark them. Sometimes they don't, but almost always they put, you know, what's what, so you don't get them confused. This goes up there. There, and right there. I take my little parts bag and just dump it in my tray. Now, if Mr. A10 Pilot was over here, he could be running the camera while I show you exactly what I'm doing here, but I think you're going to get the idea anyway. Or you might even be able to see it. I don't know. So just kind of note, before you get going, kind of note the orientation of which side your throttle cables are on, so that when you fold everything back down again, it's in the right orientation, you know, so you don't have the brake line basically on top of these and causing an issue. This is harder than it looks. Okay. Oh, I know it's Ron. Figured someone with smart-ass comments it would definitely be Ron. All right, so you just break this one loose. And then just kind of fish it out of there. And throw it right in the garbage. Brake fluid or anything. No, looks good. Take our new one. Put your new washers on. Sorry, you guys gotta look at the back of my head. That's the way it is. So definitely a very important thing to have is a good quality torque wrench. Every one of these banjo bolts gets torqued down to 18 Newton meters. Roll that back into place. Yeah, I can kind of put this back together for now. It should be fine. Nope, not yet. All right. Throttle cables were on the outside. All right. I'll put that, go back down below now. Laurel, it's nice to see you. That'd be my mom just making sure that I'm doing everything right. Even my mom's watching. Okay, where's my line? So I just want to mention too, guys, that if this does look like too much work for you, or if you want somebody else to do it, I'll be glad to do it on your bike. Just contact me through my my website, kirksmotorrod.com, and we can arrange it, get you set up. Alright, I know you're just looking at the back of my arm right now, but I'm just trying to fish this in a little bit here. Get it threaded in, the brake line from above. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to thread this most of the way in. This one I'm going to leave deliberately out so that when I bleed the top, I can bleed it down to here first, and then I'll tighten this up. Little tip. Don't tighten this one all the way down, otherwise you're going to be blowing air all the way into the ABS unit. This is how you keep, part of how you keep that air out of there. So I just leave it with a little bit of gap in it. I'll tighten that down later. Brian, I see you asking me a question there about a cruise control. I won't get to that in this video, but I have addressed that before. If your cruise control's not working, one of the things you can try right away is try loosening up your throttle cable just a little bit, because sometimes that micro switch that's on the throttle body tends to crap out, and it gets too tight. Then if you hit bumps or whatever, it'll kick out. If not, you can disconnect the micro switch altogether. There's a plug over there. It looks like the fan plug, but it's the other one. If you pull off the side panel. Anyways, just cutting these zip ties out of the way now so I can change this brake line out. I hope that helps you, Brian. If not, then write me the question on off my contact page, and we'll go with it from there. Okay, so once you get your wire out of the way enough to be able to get this brake line out of here, that's what we're doing now. So I'll back you up a little bit, a little wider perspective. All right. Get my little tray over here. Next, I'm going to just start here at the top. I'm going to loosen this one up. Just try to break the seal on it. I guess you could remove it all the way if you really want to. Yeah, I'll just pull it all the way out. Always change off your little washers that are on your banjo bolts. There's usually a 10 millimeter nut here, you got to pull that off so you can get this junction block moved out. And then there's 11 millimeter, what is this thing? It's a brake line. 11 millimeters. Pull that off too. So loosen this off. Oop, just slipped off the jack. And then go ahead and take it off of the brake caliper. Change out your banjo bolt, get that ready for the next one. Now I can remove this line and throw it right in the garbage. Alright, let's prep the new line. So you're going to need a new junction block, as well as this one here, and the right caliper line as well. This one says ABS unit, so that goes up to the top there. I just kind of put them together a little bit, keep them loose, and then just sort of tie it all in at once. this right back on there. Now, okay, once you get all these together, bring this in a little bit. Once you get them all together, you can go ahead and tighten these down. So I tighten these down by hand, just as tight as I can get them without bending anything. That's good. All right. So I'm going to leave this just loose just for now. I'm going to tighten all of them at one time. If you really want to, on yours, if you want to go ahead and tighten that down all the way, go right ahead. I'm going to work on the other side now. I don't know if we can see it from this angle, if I work from over there. Alright, I'll probably have to move the camera over to this side because it's just going to be a lot easier for me to work so I'm not on that big angle. Again, sorry guys for all the jostling around. I would say it's necessary though. Okay, kind of the same thing over on this side, but we're just going to replace it with this one. So you got your 6 mil down here, and you got your 11 here, and there's a little nut end down here you can hold on to. That's a 14. Clip this tie out of the way. For those of you guys, if I don't get to your question, I'll when I'm all done with this job, if I got enough time, I'll take a look at the questions that come through, try to answer some of them in the rapid fire before I end the video. But just wanted to just show you guys what you got to go through or to change this. One of the other things I didn't mention in the very beginning of this video was I like to take the front tire off because it makes bleeding these and changing these a lot easier. So it really is just a lot easier to get the front tire off of there, and as well as the fenders and everything. So you can reach here without any problem. You can bleed the brakes a little bit easier. Just makes life easier. Anything to make the job easier, right? Alright, tighten this down. Same sizes as before. Now I'm going to go ahead and lock down those 3 points on here with the 18 Newton meters. As I find my wrench. Ogre, good to see you. I'm not sneaking one in on you, buddy. I even sent out a warning with you in mind an hour ago, an hour before I started this. You just got to turn on your notifications, man. Take you back to the other side. One more to do up here, and then we'll start the rears. All right, got it all tightened down. Everything's ready to bleed out here. I'll strap all of this stuff back on here. This, do the zip tying a little bit later when I'm about done. Just want to make sure everything works. Let's go to the start at the rear here now. Alright, this is kind of in the way of the fan up there. Hopefully there's not too much wind noise. Turn my heat down in here a couple degrees so it doesn't come on too often. So, you got back here, you got one point right underneath the shock here, as well as back here behind this. First thing we're going to do though is I'm going to take a couple of hose clamps and put them on these lines right here, because it will stop it from creating a suction and drawing it all out. So I'm going to put one here which stops this reservoir, and I'm going to put one on the other ones, so when I pull off this back hose here, the one that goes to the rear caliper, that one won't just continually draw, or it will slow it down significantly enough that it won't empty out the reservoir and then suck air into the system. So what I got to do that is these little clamps right here. I do believe I put these on my Amazon page. They're cheap insurance. They're only like, I don't know, they're like $8 or something. They're not very much money for the set. I think they're pretty cheap. But you can use the other type too, the little plier type. All right, shut that off. Then I'm just going to hang a couple on these. Ogre, I'm still expecting to do your bike one of these days. Keep threatening that you're going to bring it out here, but you don't. Bring it out here, man. Well, maybe once the snow goes away. All right, little zip tie here we got to clip. That's for your brake switch. And then you can turn this unit around, and then we have to pull off the cylinder here, the control unit there, the master cylinder. This little clip here, you just pop that and pull this pin out. Or you just pull the whole thing right out. You can always do that too. I'll fix that in a minute. Just take this thing and just flip it upside down, put it up here, get it up out of the way. All right. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing okay. Now I take a screwdriver and I run it right through here so I can have a pry point to get this 14mm out. Okay. This is the point where my tools will start disappearing on me. Okay, up here I'm going to loosen this first. I'm just going to let that drain out without sucking everything back through it. Just going to at least break it loose. So in order to do that, you got to get a wrench. You got to get a, I think it's a 15mm down in there. So you can fish a wrench down here and hold on to it. Just make sure, try not to hit your positive cable, otherwise it turns into a little fireworks show. There we go. Be afraid to kind of bend that thing where you want it. So this hose is the one that's going to go on there. It is notoriously in the wrong position. Whatever this bend is, every one of them that comes from Spiegler is always bent wrong. So you can see it, you kind of see where the angle is of the first one, and you lay this thing up there, and this thing is always going to be just a little bit off. So you're going to need to turn this. And the way you turn it is you take this little black rod that comes through it with it, and I just get a pair of pliers. You can use these tools and put it in a vise if you want, but it's just as easy to turn with a pair of pliers, or even sometimes you can just grab them and kind of rotate them around. That one actually turned a little bit, and you just want to kind of get it into a spot where it's going to lay, you know, flat. So it's got to turn this way some more. That's pretty close. Alright, and just fish that one out and throw it away. Ogre, you named your bike Helen. So I know that's not your wife's name, so, you know, that'd be really inappropriate for you to put brake lines on another woman. But why Helen? Is it your mom's name or something? Somebody you dated in high school? Alright, we're just going to give it a quick little test fit. Maybe. Yep, that's pretty good. Okay. Definitely easier to thread this top one first than it is to try to get it on there after you put the bottom one on. So now again, on this top one, I'm just going to tighten it all the way in, but I'm going to loosen it up like a full turn and just leave it like that. This is going to be my air bleeding point. This is going to be the first place that I bleed from to try to get brake fluid from the back reservoir through the master cylinder up to this point, because there's brake fluid all the way to the ABS pump, and I'm not going to try to be pushing any air through the ABS pump. Okay, once again, 18 on all the banjo bolts. Trick here is to try to get this so your brake line doesn't turn on a really severe angle. So you might need to get another screwdriver or something, kind of wedge it in there, and just kind of hold it in place while you tighten this down. Otherwise, if it gets too far this way, it's not going to fit correctly. When you put it all back together, it's going to hit the back of this, and if you get it too straight going against the transmission, well, then it's going to hit the transmission. So it's kind of got to be just at a little bit of an off angle in there. Yeah, Bob, it definitely is a good idea to do the shocks at the same time, or if you're going to do the springs. It's nice to have this out of the way, but it's not crucial either. You can see I'm doing it with the springs in there. It's not that hard. It doesn't add that much of a problem to it. Yeah. All right. Well, at this time I can go ahead and reassemble the foot peg, put it back on there. Clip back in. I'm sure there's some torque setting for these little parts, but yeah, that's good enough. All right. Next thing I'll do is, so I'm going to need this brake pedal for bleeding this out. I'll go ahead and run these in as well right now. Let's get them started. There we go. Okay, on to the last part of the brake lines. This one's going to be a little bit more difficult to film both angles of it. Or all angles. Can get this thing down a little lower though. Okay, you guys can see good enough, hopefully. So we're going to cut all the zip ties out of the way that are holding on this line and go into the ABS wire there. And then go ahead and pull the hose out of its clips. If the clips come off of there, just put them back on the final drive because you need those for the new one. Okay, right here we're going to pull this off. I'm going to have to put a, you see it's going to bend this. I'm going to get a wrench and just kind of hold this thing so I can snap that loose. Okay, there's that side. Do this one here. By now you should know what to do with this. Alright, so on this hose, a lot of times one of these is in the wrong position too, but I usually just hook up the front first, and then I'll adjust the back as needed. Also, these rubber things can be in the wrong spot, so sometimes you got to move them back and forth on the lines a little bit. Snug this up just a little bit. There we go. And to the back side. See, this is a little bit off. You can feel it in here. You know, if I were to really force it, it's going to just put a bend in it, pushing toward the brake rotor. I don't really want to do that, so I am going to use that little tool. Unless, of course, I left it somewhere else, which most likely I did. Yep, there it is. Alright, so we're going to turn in just a little bit. So you just hang on to the little silver collar that's just above the crimp, and then you can kind of tweak it a little. There we go. Yep, that's good. Thanks for staying with me, everybody, as I install these brake lines. If you didn't catch the very beginning, you can always go back and watch. It's going to be archived on on the website, you know, on the Illinois BMW Riders video section. And I'm doing this for all my Patreon supporters. The few and the proud. I'm proud of you guys. I'm very happy. I get some people that like my content and want to help support me. Alright. Just kind of moving these things right now to put them back in those little hangers. There we go. Then I'll go ahead and torque down those last two banjo bolts. Then we'll get on to the bleeding procedure. straighten that back out. Somehow it got bent out. Okay, probably be doing most everything now from up top, so bring you guys back up to eye level. It doesn't really matter where you start. You know, I can start on the bleed in the rear. I can start at the front. I'm going to start at the front in this case, just because that's what I'm used to doing. And yeah, so one of the things you need to do before you start doing your bleeding procedure is pack some rags back underneath here, because this is the area right in here that's gonna start to drip. So get a paper towel in there, or 2 or 3. There we go. Alright, this is where that protection is going to come in very handy, because it might want to spit out here, and then that would shoot right up onto the windshield and make a mess. Okay, so fill up your reservoir here. What you want to do is tap this thing. You want to get the bubbles to start coming out like that. And you just sit here and tap and tap until you're convinced there's really nothing left in there bubble wise. It takes a long time, and I guess you're going to see the whole long time. Just when you think you get all the bubbles out, they're still not. It takes a while. Now we're getting close. Normally I'd put the thing on pause right now and you know, do this off camera, then make an edit, and it looks like I did it in like what, like 5 seconds. Every once in a while, take a look underneath to see if you're getting any brake fluid coming out yet. Yeah, there's starting to be some coming out. Alright, we're about there now. Not seeing any more. So when you guys get this job done, and if your brake feels spongy, that's probably the most likely thing. So even if you know you got the cap on there, just sit there and tap this a few times with the bike off, and you might be able to work some of the air out of it. Some of it might get trapped in there, like in the piston mechanism that's inside here, and it might work itself out eventually. Alright, that looks pretty good. Okay, so you just want to look for some drips coming out. There's some coming out pretty consistently. You can work that thing a little bit more if you need to. You don't have to get every last little bubble out, because the rest of it will come out in the bleed procedure. That's starting to go. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this one all the way up. That should be it for the mess up here. Just because I got everything over on this side, I am going to go ahead and sort of pre-bleed this side as well, and get this last one here tightened up. So I'm going to pull these reservoirs off. Before I release this one though, I'm going to evacuate what's in this front reservoir. Clean it out. Okay, this is where one of these little funnels comes in real handy. If you don't have one of these, you can get these at Beamer Boneyard. He's got these. They're like 30, 35 bucks a piece. I don't have any of those on the Amazon store. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and release my clamps. Take them all off of there. Okay, down here, this is where this is going to be bleeding out pretty quick. So stick a rag underneath that one and just let it flow for a minute. That way it kind of works all the air bubbles out that are in the master cylinder. It doesn't take a whole lot, but that way we've got fluid all the way up to that point again, and it should be good. Yeah, that should be pretty good now. See, quite a bit came out. So now on this particular model, this reservoir, this rear reservoir, it feeds both into the ABS pump as well as to the rear circuit. So just leave this all attached, and I guess we'll just start there with bleeding it out. Clean up my mess here a little bit more. Richard, in answer to your question there regarding the 1150 GS, it's really going to be about the same procedure. Your ABS pump might look a little bit different, but you're going to have the same kind of bleed areas on that. Your reservoir might be in a different spot or look a little different, but largely it's going to be the same procedure. So thankfully BMW didn't make it different, radically different on every bike, especially the 1150. That's a little older one, so it's just going to be the same thing. We'll figure it out. Alright, so on this one the bleed nipples are pointing in that direction instead of up. This one's kind of a pain because there's like almost no clearance here to get parts and tools in between these two things. Got that little angle thing. These angle parts are on the Amazon page. If you don't have any or you want some for yourself or for a friend. All right. So this is a 7mm wrench. Just need to crack them both loose. Just make sure that they do come loose before you try this. Okay. All right. Okay. So this bleed procedure is really same as most brake jobs. Open it up, push down the master, let it up. Need a little bit of air coming out. Might even be able to pick it up in the video. All right. Oh, actually, I'm going to bleed the front back to the ABS pump first. As well. Okay, same thing up here. You just want to make sure that you keep this thing full enough that it's not going to draw air into the system and you're going to be kind of starting over. So open it up and just start pumping away. So if you're, just a little piece of advice, if your handle doesn't come back, if it doesn't feel like it falls forward, just kind of give it a little jiggle or something, kind of like a toilet, you know, that is flushing and doesn't ever stop. Just jiggle it a little bit and that spring will finally let that thing come back. It's not broken. This one's not doing that at all. This one's just returning just fine, so. I usually let it go down about halfway and then I'll fill it back up again. There's the air. A little bit of air in there, probably enough just to make it feel a little spongy. Alright, so once you're pretty convinced it's bled out, you can go ahead and seal this part up. Just top it off and seal it up. I always like to pull the cover off and get out the brake fluid that's in there. You can see there's always going to be some. There it is, sitting on the top. Inspect this little baffle. Make sure it looks pretty good. Should be good. These things are pretty much good forever, but I guess anything can go wrong, right? It's just a part. Just giggle it, huh? Okay. I tear a little piece off, roll it in my fingers, and then just kind of put it down in these little screw holes. At least the front two, because that seems to be where the, if there's going to be some fluid, that's where it's going to sit. And then the threads will push it out. And you put the little screws back on there. Now, we'll bleed it out the rest of the way. Richard, I see you're asking me what was the condition of the old stuff. It really wasn't too bad. That wasn't the issue. It just needed brake lines. So, yeah, this one's really in good shape. This particular bike is from Indiana. The guy had it serviced out at a BMW dealer. And I have to say, out of all the bikes I've worked on, this one was in, like all the screws were in the right place. Somebody that actually worked on it cared about it, because the screws are in the right place. Nothing is over torqued. Nothing's under torqued. It's in really just nice condition. So, yeah. Alright, hopefully I'll be able to catch most everything I'm doing here. Hang on a second. Probably should have pulled the rear tire off too. So I'm going to do that. Just makes it easier to bleed it out. And I've only got 2 bolts holding it on right now anyway. Three bolts. Okay, don't forget there's a bleeder on the back side of the caliper, on the inside of the caliper. Don't forget that one. All right. Okay, here's where we just bleed it out with the ABS pump itself. And we'll finish it off on the back one. That one almost takes nothing to do. Let's see how dark it is. Not too bad. All right, now we're going to move the funnel to the other side of this thing on this model. If you don't have one that looks like this, you know, if you got the one with the ABS, it's got the little reservoirs on top of the pump. Just watch my other video on how to do that particular model, and you'll know how to do it. Definitely something you should be doing every year, even if you don't ride your bike. I'm getting so many people that are asking me about they're getting the flashing ABS lights because their pumps have crapped out. A little preventative maintenance can go a long way. It's not saying that they're not going to break, because sometimes they will anyway. But you might be able to save yourself a whole lot of hassle. Hassle and expense. Yeah, I can see the color in there pretty good. Kind of looks like beer. I need a beer. I think it's beer 30. I actually really like these reservoirs back here. It's so much easier to do it here than on top of the ABS pump. They only did this for just a few years. They did it, I think, from like late model 01 to 04 maybe? I don't know. I don't really need that anymore. Okay, same thing over here.
Celebrating 650 radio broadcasts live from the video game Amsterdam. Your team for AEBT 200 to the top of the line.
I like to run quite a bit of fluid through these just to make sure I get everything. Radar, good to see you. One of my patrons. Thank you. You guys been able to hear my music at all? Ah, good. Okay. Try to keep the music low enough so that it doesn't get flagged in other countries, but I don't have to worry about too much about it being monetized because, well, we don't monetize this channel. So the only way I make any money off of these videos is by you guys that support me out there, whether you go to my Amazon page or support me on Patreon or buy a t-shirt or one of these nice hoodies. These hoodies are really nice, by the way. I think I'm the only one that owns one right now, and it's like thin enough that it's not too hot, and it's thick enough that hey, it helps keep warm. Okay, just a couple more things to go here. Just a little brake cleaner to get all the rest of the brake fluid out of here. So if you guys can find this stuff, this Penray, I was given a can. I was at a race once and a guy gave me a can of this to try out. This is the best stuff I've ever used. This non-chlorinated brake cleaner, number 4620. I don't know where you can get it. Maybe might be able to get it on Amazon. I don't know. If you can, I'll put it on my Amazon page. But this stuff is good. It evaporates super fast. It's probably so good that it'll kill you. Just the way I like it. All right. Stuff's so good it'll give you cancer. All right. So other than this hose, which I am putting back, I swear, I'm going to put it right here now. Now I really can't forget it. It's going to be in my way. That's it. I changed the brake lines. Took about, what did it take, like 3 hours? 2 hours? 2 hours. Only 2 hours. Guys, I know if you've never done this job before, you know, you watch me do it in real time. It took 2 hours to do. Just expect that it's going to take you longer. I think the first time I ever did this job, it probably took me like 4.5 hours. You know, you still got to remove the covers, you got to remove the gas tank, all that stuff. I just wanted to show you a live video of just doing the sort of the meat and potatoes of this, which is changing out the lines specifically. Again, if you want these lines, call Spiegler directly. Tell them you saw my video. Tell them you know, that always helps a little bit. Helps get my name out there, at least with them. Yeah, I don't know what else to say on this job. I know it's going to work. I've done this enough times that I know when I take it out there for a test ride, going around my block, it'll work just fine. If you do pull off, one other little tip, I didn't show this before, but if you do pull off your wheel, make sure you put a wedge or something, some kind of a block of wood or even an old brake pad. Put something in place of the rotor in between those pads, otherwise you'll probably burst the little pistons out of the cylinders, and that's not going to be fun to put those back in. So make sure you put something in there, a piece of wood, brake pad, put your finger in there even. Anyway, that's pretty much all I got. I will take a quick scroll here through my comments and see if I missed anything significantly here. Yeah, we had people from all over. Russia, Serbia, Slovakia. Guys, it's great to see all you guys. Denmark. Even my own mother showed up. She's probably mad at me now. All right, well, guys, if you're watching this on a repeat and you got some other questions, put them down in the comments. I read every comment that comes in on this channel, and yeah, that's about it. So thanks so much for watching this live stream. It's like a tech day with nobody else around, right? Anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.